I want to talk to you about a legendary sandwich. Actually, it's more than a sandwich. It's a sub, and a darn good one at that. Jersey Mike's, one right next to my house. Their giant subs just got even more legendary because now you can order from Jersey Mike's online like I do. And right now, when you order your sub online, Jersey Mike's will hook you up with a 10% off discount. Jersey Mike's has piled their subs high with sliced-to-order meats, cheeses, and fresh veggies, and they've been doing it since 1956. Though it will take you more than a minute to take down one of our giant subs, it won't take you any time at all to pick up one when you order online. It's my new go-to move. Try it out. Whether you're flying solo or buying for the family, order smarter with Jersey Mike's online. Get 10% off, 10% when you order at jerseymikes.com/herd or use the promo code herd on their app for 10% off. That's jerseymikes.com/herd or promo code herd for 10% off. Get in, get out, get eating at Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, Sirius XM Channel 83, and Fox Sports 2 today, meaning I did not shave, and I'm wearing a home shirt, not a luxurious, a Fox shirt. I'm wearing a home shirt today.
Is this like a home nacho?
Kind
but a home
of.
shirt.
I just came in unshaved, and this is how I roll.
Is it Lucky Brand?
It is a Lucky Brand shirt. There you go.
Shout out to Lucky.
Shout out to Lucky. So, I was thinking about, I remember when I was a little kid, and I got mad at my mom, and I said, I'm running away from home. Did anybody out there listening or watching, did anybody ever make that threat?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Absolutely, and I did it.
Okay. And how long were you gone for?
Like half a day.
Okay. And I did it, too.
Uh-huh.
And I was gone for about an hour and a half. See, the problem was I didn't have my driver's license, and I didn't really have any money. Basically, I didn't have any leverage. This is something also, when I left my former employer a year before I was leaving, I put my home for sale, but I wouldn't put a sign in my yard because my neighbors worked at my former employer, and I didn't want them ratting on me to my boss. The moral to the story is, if you don't have leverage, like when you threaten to run away from home when you're 14, or if you're leaving a company and your contract isn't up yet, keep it to yourself. The Kyrie Irving crowd is forgetting something. Kyrie wants to challenge himself. Kyrie wants a new identity. Kyrie's contract's not up. Kyrie is the 14-year-old saying, I don't like my family. You know what families often do to kids who say that? They send them to military school because they're pissed. You don't like our family? We'll send you to our poor cousins. And by the way, they're mean. We'll send you to military school. I totally get if you want something else in life. A new challenge, a new teammate, a new city. But when I left my former employer, I didn't really tell him until my contract was up, because then I had leverage. This is why Kyrie Irving should have sucked it up and been quiet for a year. Like, everybody is forgetting this story, which has been the story of the week that Kyrie Irving wants out. Dan Gilbert has a history of being spiteful. He may just send him to Sacramento to tick him off. This is just a heads up from Uncle Colin. When you want out of a contract, don't advertise it to your bosses. Today, Cleveland executives have all the leverage in this story. They have all the leverage. Kyrie has none of it. And Cleveland's ticked off. And by the way, LeBron is ticked off. Do you think they're going to put him on a better team than LeBron? Cleveland's trying to keep LeBron James. Okay, they don't want to tick off LeBron James. The last thing they're going to do is probably send Kyrie Irving over to Boston, where he could be on a better team. They're either sending him west, where he's not going to beat the Warriors, or to a bad team in the East. And it's really funny. I think Kyrie Irving has the hallmarks of a spoiled child syndrome. He went to Duke, a one and done, won't reportedly return Cavalier calls, and not happy playing with the best player in the world. And I went up and I looked up Kyrie Irving ego on Google. Here's a story that was written during the season. Here's the headline. And it was written by a Cleveland sports writer. This is not an outsider taking a shot. This was a guy, Bill Livingston, for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, who has to deal with Kyrie Irving. And the headline is, Kyrie Irving and his runaway ego imperil the Cavaliers. That's a local writer. Local writers don't want to touch Nick Saban in Alabama. Local writers won't be critical of Joe Madden in Chicago or the Green Bay Packers' Aaron Rodgers. Local writers usually take it easy on their stars because they have to deal with them constantly in a locker room and then get shut down. The Cleveland Plain Dealer headline, Kyrie and his runaway ego. What Kyrie's doing just isn't smart. If you're a 15-year-old and you don't have a license and you don't have a job, don't threaten to run away. Don't tell your family you don't like them. They'll make it worse. And if you're a star and you still have years on your contract, good luck making threats. Because remember, Cleveland still has to kiss LeBron's ring for a year. Okay, they still, because if you're leaving, they're not losing both of you. So they talked to somebody last night and he said, lost in all of this is they're not doing Kyrie any favors. Okay, they'd rather take a little less and make LeBron happy. And that's where I'm going to segue into my next story. So there is a story this morning, and this is an NBA writer who I actually trust. His name is Woj.
He has more of a name than Woj.
On his birth certificate, it's longer than that. We call him Woj. And when he writes, I read it and I believe it. He lists the teams that want Kyrie Irving, and it's the good teams. Miami, San Antonio, New York's not good. He lists, I should say there's good, there's bad, there's, the Clippers. And the Cavaliers want a lot. But the 2 or 3 teams that are mentioned, I think Woj is missing here. He says the best chance is Boston. Let me ask you something. What in the hell can the Celtics give the Cavaliers? A number 1 pick? That's going to piss LeBron off. He doesn't want to play with an 18-year-old. He doesn't want to play with an 18-year-old. Could you give him Jay Crowder and Jaylen Brown? That's not going to make him happy. You want to give him Isaiah Thomas? 5'8"? Has to have the ball in his hands? That's not going to make him happy. Let me tell you, if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, you're going to lose Kyrie Irving, right? The only chance to keep LeBron James is one team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. You call the Minnesota Timberwolves and you say, Andrew Wiggins for Kyrie. Minnesota wants Kyrie. That will give them Kyrie, Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, and a decent bench. Okay? You can't keep adding stars and not giving one up. To keep LeBron happy, and we all know how it works in the NBA, when you trade away a star, you always lose unless you get a star in return. Wiggins is younger, longer, healthier, 23 points a game. He's 22 years old. He is a significantly better defender. Remember, this just isn't about Kyrie. Kyrie's going to leave eventually. To maintain a relationship with LeBron, you have to do a deal with one team. Because I'm reading all these teams here. San Antonio Spurs don't have multiple stars. Clippers don't. Suns don't. T-Wolves do. Knicks don't. Heat don't. There is only one trade partner for the Cleveland Cavaliers to potentially retain LeBron. It's Minnesota. And I looked it up this morning. Minnesota would still have Karl Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, then Kyrie Irving. You'd have to give up Wiggins. And you could go to LeBron James and you could say, LeBron, we're giving you youth. He can defend somebody on Golden State. He is going to be with LeBron a 27-point game guy. We've got you, LeBron. We got Tristan Thompson. We have Kevin Love. And you can throw a couple of marginal expiring deals on the back end of that to make it work. Kyrie now makes 2.5 times, 3 times what Andrew Wiggins does. So I'm reading Woj's story, and he's listing all these teams, and there is a sense Boston is the best fit. All their pieces would upset LeBron. He doesn't want a number 1 pick. He doesn't want Jay Crowder. He doesn't want Isaiah Thomas. You're losing Kyrie. How do you potentially keep LeBron? There is only one answer, and it's Andrew Wiggins. And if LeBron leaves, you still have Andrew Wiggins. You have a kid who you could have drafted. So you have a star. The Boston thing makes no sense. Phoenix isn't giving up Devin Booker. Knicks aren't giving up Porzingis. The NBA history is absolutely definitively clear. You lose every trade, you surrender a star unless you get the equivalent star. And I would argue Kyrie is a better offensive player. Length, youth, health, defense, Wiggins is better than Kyrie, and that's a turn on for LeBron going forward.
The Cavs did draft Andrew Wiggins, though.
Yes.
And remember, LeBron wanted him traded.
Then,
but at the same time, he already had Kyrie, so who's to say he wants him back? And even if he does, if I'm Andrew Wiggins, I'm not very excited about playing with LeBron. I don't trust him, and he has got the same issues probably as Kyrie does.
Nobody's asking the player who they want to play with. No,
he's going to be there. I don't think it's going to work out, though. LeBron wanted him traded before.
Bottom line is, if LeBron leaves, at least you have a star.
Yeah, so if the Cavs are not listening to LeBron anymore.
That's what I'm saying. In the end, remember, there are different times in life. At 23, you don't want to get married. At 29, you may want to. At 23, there's no way you get married. At 32, there's urgency to get married. He didn't want Andrew Wiggins at 19. He had Kyrie Irving. He was going to move to get Kevin Love. He wanted titles. He's won in Cleveland. Kyrie's leaving. This is a different relationship. Andrew Wiggins now is an all-star level player. He was a baby. Kyrie was there. Kyrie's gone. At different times in your life, people have different impact. What I thought I wanted to do at 22 and 32 and now 52 are 3 different things. Wiggins in the moment was a baby. Like LeBron doesn't want to play with Jason Tatum. But now if I say to you, one of the premier wing defenders, 24 a game, youthful, helps against San Antonio and the Celtics, I think LeBron would go, just think about this. LeBron wakes up Monday morning, and he's got Derrick Rose and Andrew Wiggins and lost Kyrie Irving. If you look at production, you're a better basketball team. And that's how NBA GMs look at production. When they do trades, what left? 23 a game. Remember, Kyrie's not a big assist guy. What came? 24 a game from Wiggins, 18 from Derrick Rose. You would see that as a better basketball team, and you may be. Especially if this Kyrie-LeBron relationship is as sour as it's being reported. So good to have you in today. Coming up next, I don't know why I've always been into this, but in the NBA, it's clear that there's a handful of players who are really, really important. In the NFL, outside of quarterback, there's not many. And one player, I think, is absolutely delusional. That's next. I went and saw a movie last night, just a heads up. It was called The Big Sick, and it was really good. So you should go watch it.
That's all?
Yeah, it didn't have sorcerers. It was a love story.
Oh, I like love stories.
It was a love story.
I think more people should watch love stories.
So do I. I think it was a love story between a young comedian from a culture that arranges marriages, and he fell for another woman, and it was fantastic, and it was poignant and terrific. It's a really good movie.
Was this your idea or Ann's idea?
This was Ann's idea, and we went with the neighbors, and we all were like, that's really good. There's a couple of it's funny. Judd Apatow creates the movie, so he's obviously a funny guy. Mm-hmm. But there is a couple of lines. The first 10 or 15 minutes is just really funny, and then it gets poignant, and then it's funny again. So smart, thoughtful, poignant love story. It's called The Big Sick. I actually think it would be a great date movie.
Oh, like a date movie, like your first date? No, not first date. In the beginning of the relationship or in the middle?
I think, no, I actually think it's a very early date movie, like a first date movie.
Well, you know how I feel about first dates at the movies. That's a no-go.
Oh, this
means you don't want to talk to her.
Yeah, this is like Dunkirk, maybe a good movie like for old married couples and history buffs, but you wouldn't want to take a date on that.
No.
It's kind of a downer.
Yeah.
Whereas The Big Sick is
okay.
fun for the whole family. No, not really. It's just fun for romantic couples.
Dates. Okay.
Yeah. Odell Beckham Jr. wants to be the highest paid player. He said that yesterday in an interview. The audio is pretty grainy. I'll let you listen to it. It's hard to make out, but essentially he wants to be the highest paid player in the NFL. So here's the tape.
I believe that I will be, hopefully not just the highest paid receiver in the league, but the highest paid, period.
Now, in the NFL and in the NBA and in hockey, there's something they call a salary cap. In baseball, not so much. So obviously, a salary cap, let me compare it to the average person listening or watching me on TV today. That's like a family budget. And so you have a family budget, and I have a family budget, and NFL teams actually have a family budget. It's called a salary cap. And so you have to make decisions all the time on what's worth the biggest money. You'll spend money on a really good, dependable car. You'll spend money on a house if it's in a good school district for your kids. You probably shouldn't spend money if you have limitations on watches and jet skis and depreciating assets. You're going to spend money on things that you feel they pay you back. Music lessons for a kid, school for a kid, school supplies, transportation for your family, dependable transportation, camp maybe for your kids so you and your wife get a breather in the summer for a couple of weeks or something. That's what NFL teams have to do. They have to say, okay, this guy's good, but does he translate to wins? Because we're going to all lose our job if we don't win enough games. I've been saying this for years and years about J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt's a really good football player. I wouldn't pay him nearly what he's paid. He doesn't translate to wins. A very good offensive guard doesn't equal wins. Quarterbacks equal wins, and a handful of very, very explosive receiving targets, pass rushers. But again, mostly guys that win games. On the defensive side, it's a collective. On the offensive side, it's just a yard and touchdown producer. I just want you to think about this with Odell Beckham. Take all your emotion out of it. Take all the emotion out of it. Think of this as your family budget. He's the sports car. Everybody loves it when they're in it, and it gets all the attention in the world, and it's kind of glamorous and you feel cool. But it's really not a necessity. Since the New York Giants have drafted Odell Beckham, they have a losing record. Well, Colin, that's not all his fault. You're right, it's not. The offensive line's been so-so, especially at left tackle. I went to what I consider the top 10 receiving targets in the NFL. Not just receivers, but receiving targets. And every time they have a touchdown in a game, does it translate to a team's win? When Gronk has a touchdown, the Patriots are 44-7. A.J. Green of the Bengals has a touchdown, the Bengals 30-14. Des Bryant of the Cowboys 30-21. Antonio Brown 24-13. Julio Jones 23-9. Julian Edelman 17-3. T.Y. Hilton 15-8. DeAndre Hopkins has a touchdown for the Texans. They're 13-6. Travis Kelce for the Chiefs. When he has a touchdown, the Chiefs are 11-2. Touchdowns equal elevation of team. You know who has the worst record for a top receiver in the NFL? Odell Beckham. 13-11. By the way, when Odell Beckham has over 100 yards receiving, the Giants are 7-12. When he has under 100 yards, they have a winning record. Odell's production does not translate to wins. He is more sideshow, fireworks show, and sports car than he is dependably productive, translating to wins. This is a salary cap league. You pay the biggest money for those who are your primary producing assets. There is no star player in the league that scores more and it translates less to a win than Odell Beckham. I also don't think he's great in the locker room. I also think he can can on occasion be a distraction, but not that big of one, but on occasion. So again, think of a salary cap like a family budget. Do you need a convertible sports car? No, what you need is an SUV because you have 2 girls and they play soccer. What you need is a good family doctor. What you need is reliable transportation, a good home in an area with good schools. You don't need a convertible sports car. Even though when you're in it, man, even though it's glamorous, even though it's cool, that's my knock on Odell Beckham and J.J. Watt. I'm not spending $20 million a year on a guy that the better he is, the worse we are. Texans last year without J.J. Watt, 9-7, won a playoff game. Without him. When he played, they weren't that good. Didn't win a playoff game. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Kevin Durant was doing a news conference, and he was asked about the Kyrie Irving situation, and he said that he hopes that Kyrie finds happiness wherever he is.
I really don't care about the Kyrie Irving situation. That's whatever I just want guys in the league to be happy wherever they play and have some fun playing ball. So wherever that is for Kyrie, I hope he finds that. But LeBron James is a phenomenal player. I got a chance to play on his team in the Olympics in 2012 and learned a lot from him.
Now, I think that's so important, and you have defended Kevin Durant for this, as have I. The part where he said, I just want guys in the league to be happy and have some fun playing ball. I think that's important for us to realize. Guys want to enjoy, you want to enjoy coming to work every day to some degree and have fun where you are. Kyrie is no longer having fun where he is, so if that means he needs to go somewhere else, so be it.
But I wasn't having fun 3 years left on my contract. I didn't make it public until the last year of my contract when I had leverage. Like a lot of people out there aren't happy. Don't advertise to your bosses before you have the ability to decide where you go that you're unhappy. My mom used to always say that. Keep some things to yourself.
Okay, that's completely fair, but 2 things. 1, he did not make it public. He's never said anything about it. It was somehow leaked. And 2, we work in a business where you don't get traded. The NBA is a very different thing. You're traded often, and sometimes in the middle of your contract, so it should go both ways.
Well, it should, but
No, it should go both ways. If you can be traded at any time by the team, why can't you have any ability to change your circumstance?
Well, you can at year 7. Like, by the way, that's the way pro sports work. By the way, Kevin Durant was unhappy for the last couple of years. He liked Westbrook, but as you noted many times, he didn't like playing with Westbrook. Mm-hmm. He never mentioned it till the end. Like, Durant was like, okay.
Oh, we knew for a long time.
But it wasn't public record. It wasn't demanding a trade.
But at the same time, Kyrie didn't make this public either. Who's to say the Cavs didn't leak this to make themselves look better?
Well, did Durant demand a trade? Because that's the leak story, that Kyrie demanded a trade.
He wouldn't have. That doesn't make sense. Kevin Durant left.
Kevin Durant, though, waited until he was a free agent. And then Kevin's like, okay, guys, I'm going to interview. I'm not happy here. All I'm saying is there is a time to say everything. There's a time to propose for marriage. You take the time. You be thoughtful. You find a romantic place. You just don't wake up in the morning and, there's a time for everything.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Kyrie's dreams. The timing's not good for him. You don't wake up and just throw a ring at a woman and say, woman, you want to get hitched. You take time, you develop it, you set the tone, you go on a vacation, you call a waiter. There's a time and a way to do entrances and exits, and I think Kyrie's really clunky here.
Rob Pelinka has been making some very weird analogies when it comes to his players, and now he is comparing his entire young Laker team to Taylor Swift.
It's kind of like if you go on YouTube and you think about Taylor Swift when she was 16 years old, maybe putting her first song. You listen to it and you say, wow, this is going to be a special thing to follow and a really cool narrative to unfold. I have that sense about the Lakers. The way we're playing in Summer League, we have this young core of Lonzo Ball, Kuzma, Hart, and it's a pass-first system that Luke Walton has designed. I think in an era of guard play where it's score, if you look at the great point guards, it's score, score, score. I think we're switching now into a mode of pass, pass, pass.
I'm not mad at the analogy. I kind of get it, and it's very Lakers to compare a team to a Hollywood star. I just wonder how the players feel about being compared to Taylor Swift.
I actually think there's a little symmetry there. I actually think the Lakers, and I've thought about this in the last couple of weeks, I think they're going to surprise people. I think they're going to be better than people think. I really do. I think they're going to be better than people think.
Okay.
I think they're going to battle for the final playoff spot in the West. And I did not think that when they picked up the 2-guard watching Summer League. I am higher on them today than I was 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I may be delusional, but I think they'll battle for a playoff spot because I don't think Utah is going to be the same team.
We'll see. And finally, your 2 favorite players came up recently on Twitter in a big rant. Stephon Marbury and Derrick Rose, 2 guys I know you absolutely love. So Stephon Marbury heard the news that Derrick Rose signed a $2.1 million deal with the Cavs and took to Twitter to express his frustration. And these tweets are worth reading, so I'm going to read them for you. I think it's a crime that Derrick Rose is being paid this amount of money when you have guys that can't chew gum and walk making more. WTF is going on in the NBA. I've watched guys that shouldn't be in the game, let alone the money they're getting. D. Rose is a monster. Really? An MVP for that amount of money? Not even haters will agree with the price tag. Dude is one of the strongest point guards to play. Him coming back from major injuries should show his work ethic and commitment. This isn't cool. I pray that's what he says, but LeBron should have stepped in. Maybe he's leaving so he doesn't care, but my man should be eating healthier.
Derrick Rose is not. John, is he a top 10 point guard in the NBA now?
No.
Not even close.
The Cavs
$2.1 million.
The Cavs couldn't have signed him if he cost more money. So why would LeBron convince him to sign elsewhere?
Portland Trailblazers have 2 guards. The Warriors have 2 guards. The Wizards have 2 guards. I'd take over Derrick Rose.
Of course you would.
Well,
Derrick Rose can do no right in your mind.
Well, people think I don't like John Wall. Derrick Rose isn't in the same classification as John Wall now.
I'm just surprised by all of it. Who would have thought, besides you, that Derrick Rose in the beginning would go down to a guy getting a 1-year deal at $2.1 million?
Beggars can't be choosers. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Longtime respected New York Daily News NFL columnist. He wrote that book, Brady Against Manning, which I read and promoted. He's got a new book out next month called My First Coach, Inspiring Stories of NFL Quarterbacks and Their Dads. That'll be a great read. Gary Myers, our friend, is joining us, and I had talked Gary about 10 minutes ago about Odell Beckham. And I said, listen, J.J. Watt and Odell Beckham may be great players, but of all the top 10 receiving targets in the NFL, his production doesn't elevate the Giants. They're only 13-11 when he has a touchdown, and the other top targets from Gronk to Travis Kelce to Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, A.J. Green, Julian Edelman have much higher winning percentages. So I guess my point is, in a salary cap league, how valuable is Odell Beckham to you?
Well, I heard you say that before, Colin, and I think you can, most of the time I agree with your insight, but you can really play with numbers any way you want and make them, do anything you want to prove your point. The reason that the Giants have the record that they have, as good as they have, even though it's not great, with Beckham scoring touchdowns, is because he's been their best player for 3 years. The record would be a lot worse if they didn't have him. So whereas he's not going to become the NFL's highest paid player, he will probably become the NFL's highest paid wide receiver when the Giants give him a new contract. And they probably would have been a 4-12 team the first 2 years without him. And then the defense was good enough last year that they probably would have won 8 or 9 games if they didn't have him. But the reason they even got to 11 wins last year was because of him. He is a great player. He's just he's been kind of a knucklehead off the field with some of the antics, but there's no denying he's a great player.
But when he has 100 yards or more, they have a losing record. 100 yards or less, they have a winning record. Could I make the argument that Des Bryant has a little bit of this quality, that he is demanding? And you go into football games knowing you're going to have to make certain throws to him and certain targets, or he can be difficult in the sideline. He can be demanding. Is he a good teammate, in your opinion?
Well, the funny thing about that is that all the players say that he is. despite the antics on the sidelines. And the reason that so many of Eli's targets have gone to him is because he hasn't had anybody else to throw to. I mean, last year he had Victor Cruz, who was, unfortunately just not the same player after a couple of really serious leg injuries.
Yeah.
And he had Sterling Shepard, who was a rookie who did well for a rookie. But, all three of those guys are under 6 feet. Now, with Brandon Marshall coming in and assuming he's got enough left, and then a rookie tight end, Evan Ingram, who's about 6'5", and Marshall 6'4", all of a sudden the Giants have some bigger targets. And Beckham's numbers might go down this year because Eli will have others to throw to. But think about it. Last year, there was nobody that the defense had a game plan for to stop other than Beckham. And for a guy who's 5'10", that's hard to do. I mean, for an offense to really be super productive when you only have one weapon and the guy's less than 6 feet tall. So, listen, I've been as critical of Beckham as anybody because he really does need to grow up. But the one thing you can't really criticize, other than that Green Bay playoff game in which he completely melted down, you can't criticize his production because he's really been the only offensive player on a team that does not have a good offensive line, hasn't been able to run the ball, and there's no other weapons. To use Julian Edelman's numbers or Gronk, well, yeah, I mean, the Patriots are the best team in the league, and they got the best quarterback of all time. So they're kind of going along for the ride, and those, I think it's been pretty much proven that you can plug anybody into that system, and as long as Brady is healthy, you can all their numbers that you want to translate into wins and losses based on touchdowns is going to be good because the Patriots and Brady have been great.
Players, when they get well compensated, many it doesn't affect. Some it does. Mm-hmm. Is there a concern that you pay Beckham a king's ransom and he changes and he's more difficult?
Well, sure. I mean, listen, he's not hurting for money. He got a huge deal from Nike. He did not come from a background that all of a sudden he had money in his pocket for the first time in his life, and he couldn't wait to spend it. I mean, he comes from a real good family, really solid parents. But I think until you give a guy $50 million guaranteed, you don't know how he's going to react to it.
Right.
It didn't faze Eli, but it's brought others down. We saw, Darrelle Revis had made a ton of money before he even came back to the Jets, and then they gave him $39 million guaranteed. And now he had some injuries, but it just didn't look like he wanted to play anymore.
Yeah, totally agree.
But Beckham is only 24 years old, and he wants to be remembered as the greatest receiver in NFL history. So I don't think if they give him a lot of money at the end of this season, all of a sudden he's going to become satisfied. I mean, he is super competitive, and part of his problem is he doesn't know how to control his emotions because there's nobody on the team that hates to lose as much as he does. As the wall in Green Bay is there. Perfect example of that.
New book out next month, My First Coach, Inspiring Stories of NFL Quarterbacks and Their Dads. Across the street, same stadium, the Jets are essentially tanking. They're stripping down their roster, and it's very obvious. They've got a roster, a collection full of mediocre quarterbacks who some would debate aren't really NFL quarterbacks. I mean, you covered initially primarily the Giants, but you know both franchises. Are they just tanking for Darnold? Is that what they're doing?
Well, they'll just tell you they're playing young players and developing young players. I don't think it's the worst thing to do.
Right.
Right. Now, whether it's Darnold and I just want to make you aware, or if you're not already, that I don't think that Darnold, even if he comes out as a lock to be the first pick, I've had people who really, really know quarterbacks well, who have watched tape, who tell me that, Josh Allen from Wyoming throws the ball much better, gets the ball into those tight windows that you have to in the NFL. It's just that he's played at a lower level of competition. That Darnold's only started like 10 or 11 games, whatever that might be.
Yeah,
there's lots going to happen between now and next April. And based on what this guy told me, who I really trust, I would not be surprised at all if Darnold is not the first quarterback taken. But I think that what the Jets' plan is to get the first overall pick in the draft, and then at the end of the evaluation process, take the best quarterback, whoever that might be. With one slight asterisk, Colin, they have not totally written off Christian Hackenberg. I mean, the guy hasn't even gotten but Colin, he hasn't even gotten into a game yet.
His completion percentage was bad in college.
Of course, but but nothing has really changed since they drafted him, other than practice, and he didn't look good in a preseason game against the Eagles. But you got to at least get him on the field to find out, which is why I think he should be the starter rather than Josh McCown at the start of the season. And what are the Jets going to gain by starting a 38-year-old quarterback who's been with about 15 teams already, whose starting record is 18-42, including 2-20 over the last 3 years? I mean, what's going to really happen? I mean, the best they're going to be is like 1-4 or 1-5 before they switch to Hackenberg. I feel like just start the kids at the beginning of the season before they suffer a lot of injuries, before the locker room is demoralized at 0-5 or wherever it might be, and let's see what he's got. And then if you become convinced that he stinks, like a lot of us think that he does, then, okay, you're all in on taking the best quarterback next year. But, Colin, they invested a second-round pick in this guy.
They're
you got to at least get him on the field.
Gary Myers, NFL reporter, New York Daily News, a columnist. The new book next month, My First Coach, Inspiring Stories of NFL Quarterbacks and Their Dads. He's more positive on Odell Beckham than I am. Productive. I don't know if it translates to wins. Gary, it's a pleasure. Good talking to you on a Friday.
Hey, Colin, just want to tell you real fast that, I wrote this column the other day. It was an open letter to Beckham in which I was really critical of him and telling him to grow up. More negative reaction about that than maybe anything I've ever written. But the thing I'm positive with him about is that he's a great player. It's just the thing I would be concerned about is all the other stuff that goes into getting him on the field on Sunday. That's what I think the Giants are worried about.
And I would also say this. New York right now is putting their arms around Beckham and Aaron Judge. Because, let's be honest, Gary, hockey, NBA, NFL, there's a lot of bad teams in New York. And Aaron Judge is spectacular, and Odell Beckham is spectacular. And New York is an incredible sports city, and they don't have a lot to love right now. They don't have the best going. They don't. There's a lot of weak rosters in New York. So I totally get fans saying, hey, this is the most exciting guy and that baseball slugger for the Yankees we got in town. His name is Gary Myers. We got to run. Good talking to you.
Take care, Colin.
Coming up next, John Gruden back in football. I'll tell you the story behind the story next. John Gruden's in the news again, former football coach in the NFL and a broadcaster, and he's doing it again. John has been an ace at doing this. His quote is, somebody asked him about returning to the NFL, and he mentions it every year. And he said, I've met with several people. I won't deny that. I'm preparing myself to come back. I am every day. I'm managing and preparing to come back. It helps my broadcasting. You know why John Gruden's saying that? Because he wants his employer to hear that. Here's the truth about John Gruden. He's now a better broadcaster than he was a coach. He is. For a long time, John Madden was a better coach than broadcaster. In the end, Madden was a better broadcaster than a coach. And John wasn't a bad coach. But by the time John Gruden left Tampa, his record in Tampa was 57-55, and that's taken over a Super Bowl roster. He took over a great team and was really good initially, and by the time he left, that roster's best players were an old Derek Brooks and Rondé Barber, and he didn't draft either of them. He wasn't in on either of those guys. The best players were on defense, and they had a really good return guy. His second to last year, he had one Pro Bowler, Jeff Garcia, and he was a replacement Pro Bowler for Brett Favre. He was not, and he alienated almost everybody in the building. I think John Gruden has become a tremendous broadcaster. If you're talking about guys that do football, and we got a lot of good ones at Fox, Collinsworth, Aikman, and Gruden, I mean, those guys as game analysts are tremendous, and Gruden also does draft stuff, and he is now tremendous on the draft. He is a fantastic broadcaster. He really is. I mean, he's one of the rare people that he talks football and I listen, and he does his homework. He's now a better broadcaster than a coach. Bill Walsh was a better coach than a broadcaster. Bill Parcells a better coach than a broadcaster. I mean, I got last 6 years in Tampa, John Gruden didn't win a playoff game. Okay? He's like art. He's getting better with age as a coach. When he left, and in fact, I have argued for years, I thought John Gruden would actually be a better college coach than a pro coach. Because if you look at college, and this is not a knock on him as a coach, he was fine. But he was really, at the end, he wasn't an elite coach. He got run out of town. He's now an elite broadcaster. If he was available on the market, CBS would have hired him over Romo if he was available on the market. Of course they would have. I mean, if he was available on the market and Troy Aikman tomorrow retires, I'm just tired of doing this. I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't call John Gruden. We would probably would. He's a very good broadcaster. And as somebody who's broadcast for 25 years, I've watched a lot of guys. I've helped a lot of guys. I've sat in rooms with executives judging guys. Gruden's terrific. He's now a better broadcaster than a coach. This whole thing about John Gruden going to coach again, I wouldn't hire John Gruden in the NFL. His brother now is a better coach than him. His brother was a better arena coach and an NFL coach than John. John keeps selling that thing because it ups his leverage as a broadcaster. Good for him. But I've argued for years that there's a handful of guys. I think Herm Edwards is one of these guys, and John Gruden's one of these guys. They'd be better college than pro coaches. Because if you look at the difference, in the NFL, you select the player. Okay? In college, the player selects you. And Gruden's got the look and the personality. He would be Nick Saban-level recruiter. You ever notice the best recruiters in college are often guys that look younger than their age? Jim Harbaugh, Nick Saban. It's kind of handsome guys, youthful guys. But I laugh at all these Gruden stories. You're nuts to hire him in the NFL. You haven't been around the NFL, 10 years? Joe Gibbs came back after a layoff, was lost for 2 years. It's the Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS2 with Christine Leahy. Before I go to Cam Newton, I got to show you how disingenuous the American sports media is. And I've been saying this for years. The NFL has never needed newspapers. It's never needed the written word. The NFL has always been about TV relationships, and now it's about TV and digital. Baseball has always been about newspapers. That's where you got the box scores. So there's always been a relationship between newspapers and baseball. That's why newspaper guys always love baseball, because it's good for their business, and why the newspaper guys are overly critical of the NFL. Last year, it was just bizarre. Oh, my God, the NFL, the ratings decline. Shut up. More people watched the NFL last year than less. It is unbelievable. This is why it doesn't break my heart when the written word is in trouble. Like, there's a reason the trust between the American public and journalists is declining sharply. Biases and agendas. Yesterday, this study comes out. Just read the study. More NFL fans, this is according to J.D. Power. You've heard of them? They did a survey. The numbers are right in front of you. Read the survey. More NFL fans say their viewership was on the rise rather than the decline last year. I'm not making that up. That's what the survey says. Only 10% of football fans surveyed in America watched the NFL less. 30% watched it more. So let's just concentrate. So 10% of the American public watched it less. That's 1/10. That's it. I'm reading a headline, and I'm looking at Twitter this morning at the number of people that are connecting Colin Kaepernick and the loss of viewers last year. Repeat. The NFL was the only league among hockey, NBA, which a greater number of respondents said they attended more games than fewer, and only 10% said they watched less. That's a tiny percentage. Of the 10%, so let's go micro. Within the 10%, there were 4 reasons, all about the same percentage. Trump, games too long, Kaepernick, and commercials. See, you're talking about maybe 3%, 3.5% of NFL fans say, by the way, what people say and what they do are two different things, say they watch less because of Kaepernick. Virtually irrelevant. Stop the alarmist reporting. Stop. The Kaepernick factor, simply not a factor. The NFL's number one. It's not close. It's a beast. It's not going away. Youth numbers are down, and players are retiring earlier because of CTE concerns. Stars aren't. A Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman did. He'd started 13 games in 3 years. He was not a star player. He was also a math genius. He's literally, figuratively, any way you can be, he was a math genius. TV and the NFL are linked, and they are humming. The network I work at made $550 million on the Super Bowl last year. Yep. That is a lot of lettuce, folks. That is a lot of lettuce. It's just amazing that people are all the data's in. NFL's rising, not shrinking. Here's something else. You ever see a comedian? And I always respected this with comedians. That I always like comedians that give you new material. Louis C.K. at the end of every year throws all his material out and starts over again. Like, I have a lot of respect for that. Jerry Seinfeld, I think, had the same habit. Chris Rock. That they do their material, they create it, and then they do a new comedy tour, and it's all new material. I'm not gonna take any shots at comedians, but there's a couple of well-known comedians. It's the same act over, same jokes over and over and over again. And because comedy is a lot of work, it's hard to do what Louis C.K. does. Norm Macdonald, he goes on Letterman. It's a new act every time. You ever seen Norm Macdonald on stage? I have. It wasn't like the last time I saw him on stage. Totally different act. It's really hard. Here's what else is really, really hard: to be quarterback in the NFL. Now, there's an easier way to play quarterback, and it works in high school and college a lot more than the NFL. Run. Running is an easy, lazier way to play quarterback. It'll beat you up physically, but it's easier. You don't have to sit in the film room forever to run. You got to sit in the film room forever to be a pocket quarterback. You got to read a lot of tape. Cam Newton and the coaches in Carolina are trying to help him. They're trying to make him more of a pocket quarterback. Less shots, more wins. Here's what Cam Newton now says to the coaches in Carolina trying to make his job easier.
I don't understand certain things. Like, that's my edge, you know. You gonna expect the lion not to roar?
Oh boy!
Like, you got to really ask yourself that. Like, I couldn't imagine, talking to Brady or talking to Aaron or talking to even Matt Ryan or Breeze and say, "Hey, you gonna stay in the pocket all day like that?" Like, that's where you feel comfortable at.
Cam's not smart, apparently, and I thought he was. That's because there's no history of running quarterbacks completing 56% of their throws winning Super Bowls. Steve Young ran, and he won a Super Bowl. But he also threw more than he ran and was an elite pocket passer. Russell Wilson's never had a completion percentage under like 62%. One year it was 68. He runs, but he's developed into a really good pocket quarterback. Let me tell you 3 guys who could complete 65% of their throws, but they don't want to put the work in. Cam, Johnny Manziel, and Michael Vick. Michael Vick's career percentage is 56%. Michael Vick now acknowledges he didn't put the work in first 5-6 years in the NFL. Michael Vick could have completed 63%, had the talent, and won't put the work in. Because it's hard to be a comedian and start over every year. And it's damn hard to become a pocket quarterback. You got to sit in film rooms. It's a easy way to do it's just sprint. Okay, Johnny Manziel completed almost 70% of his throws in college. The minute he got a paycheck, Johnny Manziel completed 57%. He won't put the work in. And Cam Newton, with all that talent, completes 58% of his throws. That's just you're either committed to comedy and want to be great, or you just want to use your raw talent. And you can go use the same old jokes, but this is why Johnny Manziel wouldn't put the work in. Vic acknowledged later, wouldn't put the work in. Cam didn't want to sit in that film room. Well, I can't imagine telling Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan is completing a high percentage of throws, and he has worked on it because that's how you win in this league. Remember what the other thing about Cam, and this has been a criticism I have of Matt Stafford. I don't think Matt Stafford is committed as much to the position as he should be. How do I know that? Look at his mechanics. What does a baseball player do when he's in a slump? works on his mechanics. He goes into the batting cage. What does a golfer do when he's on a slump? Gets his coach, puts in more time, mechanics. Matt Stafford and Cam Newton, hot and cold with their mechanics. Remember what Greg Cosell said last year on our show, looking at tape of Cam Newton, not rooting for or against?
If you isolate Cam, he's never been a precision player. He's always been erratic, but he can make throws that are wow throws. He's made fewer of those wow throws. So what's happened now is the poorer throws are magnified because there's fewer great ones. The problem is when your mechanics are poor, it's really, really difficult to be consistent.
Okay, his mechanics are poor and his completion percentage is low. There's one reason. He's not all in. He's not all in. By the way, this is what I said about Vic. It's why I didn't like Johnny Manziel. It is hard to create an entirely different new 1-hour comedy special every year. That is a lot of time. And it's dang hard to be a pocket quarterback. Running, escaping, you don't have to watch a lot of film for that. That's instinct. Instinct's not work, it's instinct. And it's that Carolina's coaches are trying to help him. They're trying to help him. And he's given me lion references. It's incredible. Is Parker around here?
He's here today. Why, do you want to talk to him about something?
I was going to talk to Rob Parker. I think I'll talk to him tomorrow. I'll talk to him Monday.
Is it urgent?
By the way, not really.
Okay.
By the way, here's some mobile quarterbacks. Now, Tim Tebow, by the way, completed 47%. Tim Tebow didn't have the talent. Tim Tebow didn't have the arm. Okay, Michael Vick had the arm. Manziel had the arm. Cam's got the arm. Like, there are quarterbacks. Like, I don't think Kaepernick, frankly, I don't think he's a great arm talent. I think he throws a fastball. I really don't. I don't think Kaepernick's a great arm talent. I don't think he has the nuance. Like, when these quarterbacks have bad mechanics and they're completing under 60% and they have talent, that's just commitment. You're not in. You're not putting in the time. There is no excuse to be as gifted as Cam, big, strong, fast arm, and have those mechanics and complete 57%. No excuse. Good to have you in. We're going to go to Cowboy Camp. We've been going to Cowboy Camp all week. Nate Newton, who's a great offensive lineman, 3 rings for the Cowboys, going to be joining us. Funny guy. I see the Ravens added an Arena League quarterback, David Olson. I thought they were going to add Kaepernick. So this guy had retired twice, went into real estate, and they bring him on. I actually think there's a game going on now. The media wants to see Kaepernick given an opportunity, so they ask questions. And then the coaches don't want to get burned, and so the coaches are like, oh, Seattle, Pete Carroll love him, and John Harbaugh love him. And then in the end, they don't get him. And I think it's one of these things where I don't think John Harbaugh drove to work one day and talked about Kaepernick. Flacco reportedly was hurt. The media likes juicy stories, and, Kaepernick's clearly newsworthy. And so you've got like a dance going on here, and this happens all the time. The dance is the media knows that Kaepernick is clicks, and they're rooting for him. A lot of that's just politics. And then, so anytime a quarterback is needed, like Seattle or Baltimore, they ask about that quarterback. And then that coach, Pete Carroll and John Harbaugh, I talked to him. He's a great guy. He's terrific, amazing. And then they eventually don't get him. And so it's a dance. And John Harbaugh spoke well of him. Pete Carroll spoke well. I mean, they talk better about the Kaepernick than they do their own quarterbacks. And so I think that you see this in sports all the time. This is the big game now. That there is value as a newsworthy story. There is value to Kaepernick. Yesterday, the data came out from J.D. Power and Associates that Kaepernick had really no impact on the ratings last year. And what did the media do? They made that the story. Well, all you had to do is read the data. Only 10% of fans said they watched the NFL less, and of those, there were 4 reasons within the 10%, all about 25%. Trump, commercials, length of game, cap, meaning none of them had any impact. Although if you look at the real data, clearly the minute the Trump beat Hillary in the election, 2 weeks later, the ratings bounce back. So, in my lifetime, there's never been an election like there's never been a campaign like Hillary and Trump. I mean, it was All the ratings for CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, they were up 45%. Well, some of those viewers are sports fans. I mean, two things guys like. I mean, I'm just going to speak for guys. My guy friends. We like sports and we pay attention to politics. I mean, those are two things. So Fox News and Fox Football share some of the same audience. Maybe it's not 50%. Maybe it's not 30%, but it's some. And so when Trump it was crazy, some of the sports audience on slow weeks would move over. And then the minute that was decided, then they mostly all moved back. So I think Cap now is almost being used by the media as a prop. Is the media thinks they're doing him a great favor, but he looks worse and worse and worse. They're using him. They think they're doing him a favor by asking, what about Cap? What about Cap? And then the coach says, love Cap, love Cap, love Cap. And then they sign a guy named David Olson, who played at Stanford for 3 years, except that he never took a snap. And then he transferred to Clemson, where he completed one pass. At one point, he played for the Kansas City Phantoms, and he was bad for them too. He just got the offer. So sometimes I think you think you're aiding somebody, and you're actually using somebody. I think the media now is all in on, they're using Kaepernick for a story, for a click, and for a headline. I really do. It's unfortunate. That's what I see happening. Heard brought to you by JCPenney, celebrating Black Friday in July. Today, tomorrow, 60% sales. Stafford, Foundry, other brands, big and tall sizes, 60% off. Get your pennies worth. JCPenney. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
The Cavs have reportedly been trying to get Kyrie Irving on the phone, and they cannot. He is not talking to the Cavs anymore outside of telling them which teams he would like to be traded to, if they would like to take that into consideration. And before you start rolling your eyes,
sounds like a spoiled kid.
Remember who else stopped talking to the Cavs after playing with them since he was drafted? LeBron James.
I don't remember that.
That happened.
If I called you, would you stop calling me back?
Wait, what? If you called me?
If you and I got into a fight, we've never been in one, but if you and I got into a fight, would you not return my call?
Maybe for a day.
Oh, my God, that's immature.
No, it's not. It's actually very mature because I might have really mean things to say to you, and so I would need to cool off for a day before I was able to talk to you in a good tone.
You are my wife.
Your work wife, yes. Wait, no, your wife's a smart lady. Does she do the same thing to you?
Yeah, she pouts, and we go through stages. It's just, I'm not into that stuff.
She pouts because you're not giving her what you want.
Oh, God.
What she wants.
Whatever.
Maybe if you just gave her what she wants.
I'm married to Kyrie Irving. Great.
Well, he's awesome, so that's great. At Patriots practice yesterday, more than 15,000 fans showed up for practice, which was so many that they actually had to open up another area of the viewing part where they could add in more people. I've been to many Patriots practices.
That seems like a lot.
That is a lot. I have never seen anything
15,
like 15,000.
15,000 is what?
I mean,
that's half a Red Sox crowd for like a playoff game. I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's a lot of people.
Do you think that's
on a work day?
You know what? Yeah, that's another point. You know what it may be, honestly?
What?
Maybe they think it's Brady's last camp. No, I mean, training camp's free.
Or it could just be that they won the Super Bowl last year.
I know, but
hype in Boston.
It's really easy to get to. They practice at Gillette on the side field, so everyone knows how to get there. There's plenty of seating. You know where to go to buy jerseys.
There's shopping around, lots of restaurants, and this whole complex.
It's not like Cowboys camp is in the middle of nowhere, an hour outside of LA.
That said, though, I've been to the Patriots practices, and there are not usually that many people there.
15,000 for camp?
Yeah. So whoever says that people aren't watching the NFL, they clearly are, because they're going to practice.
That's more people that are going to multiple baseball games right now in the regular season.
I've got to tell you, too, football practice, at least the part that you're able to watch, is so boring.
It's the piss.
So the only reason people are going is to get a glimpse at Tom Brady and, their favorite players.
NFL's dying there, Christine.
Right, without having to pay for a ticket. And finally, this might be my favorite story of the entire day. Ben McAdoo is trying to motivate his veteran Giants players. Got kind of an old team, Eli Manning included. So he told them the story. Do you know about this? Why are you grimacing?
I'm waiting for it.
Okay. He told the players the story of this lion named Frazier. He was a very old lion, and he was kind of getting set to be sent off. They didn't really want him anymore. And then they tried this last-ditch effort to bring him back to life. And so they gave him some sort of a pill.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he had 33 cubs in 16 months. And they started calling him the Sex Simba. Not the sex symbol, but the Sex Simba. And then the players were motivated. If the lion could do it, so could they.
That's weird.
This is what Ben McAdoo is telling his players.
I still don't. Is Ben McAdoo a good coach?
This makes me think he is.
I'm still not sold.
Are you not motivated? He's basically taking M Drive. This lion.
Plus a little Viagra syrup or something.
It increases your testosterone levels, doesn't it? And your libido.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So, hey, Sex Simba, the Frazier the lion.
All right.
Good for Ben McAdoo.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Yeah, Nate Newton was a tremendous offensive lineman for the Cowboys. Always a big personality. 3-time Super Bowl champ. And Nate is at Cowboy camp. And it's interesting because those Cowboy teams, everybody talked Aikman and Emmett and, Michael Irvin. But the offensive lines were unbelievable. And Nate Newton now is joining us. Nate, when people talk about this Cowboy, we got Nate is via the Coward Global Satellite Network. Oh, my God, look at Nate. He's got the Herd microphone. I didn't even know that today.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah, I do. I got the Herd.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, I got your microphone, baby. The Herd up in this thing, man. Let's rock and roll, baby. Let's do what we got to do to get through this, baby. Real smooth and easy. Don't attack me and I won't come at you.
No. So when you hear about the great Cowboy O-lines, I want you, Nate, to compare your O-line to this Cowboy O-line.
You know what? This O-line is much different than ours. We had my guys in the 90s. We had 5 to 6 plays, and every week we would probably add 1 or 2 or take away 1 or 2 depending on who we playing. And we went out to maul people. We were running the lead draw. We were running ISO plays. We were running power, and we was doing single blocking. And we just dominated people. And as the game went on, we just, we started out a little bit passing, but as the game went on, we just tried to roll you over with the offensive line and Emmitt Smith. These guys here are a little more athletic. You can open up the playbook. Each week, you don't know whether you're going to get a screen game. You don't know whether you're going to get a short trap, a long trap game. We got guys like Zach Martin that can get out on the edge and pull. We got Tyron Smith that can run the tray counter. So these guys are a little more athletic, and they can do a whole lot of things better than we could. Now, every now and then, I'll probably pull maybe 2 times a year. And so I'll probably get out on a sweep maybe 1 time a year, and they may run only 4 screens. But this team here now, with this offensive line, they got guys that are a little more athletic and can do a little bit things a little bit better than we could back then. We were dominant and we were powerful, but these guys are pretty good.
That's really cool. Nate Newton joining us, acknowledging the athletic ability of this offensive line. It also, I want to make some comparisons. Your team had a lot of big personalities. Now, you won games, you took care of business. And now this team is we're starting to see things and hear stories. When you hear about these current young guys getting in trouble, and you had a few guys that got in trouble, is it the same? Is it different? Do you worry about that?
You know what? You worry about it because now this cell phone, and I was trying to tell people all the time, and I run into this question all the time. The difference is it's probably about 6 inches long, 3 inches, 2 inches, and 2.5 inches wide. It's called a cell phone. These things are like gold. They're liquid gold to everybody. I mean, if Zeke walks into a club now, everybody turns their phone on photograph. They turn their phone on video, and they just watch Zeke. And this is how it go. He's the 4th player pick last year. He's an instant rock star. Led the league in rushing. I mean, Michael Irving was an instant rock star, but we didn't have cameras back then. We didn't have people gushing over us when we walked in there with the cameras. And it's simple, but it's the truth.
When did you, because I got to be honest, Nate, I I just never thought Dak Prescott would be this good. I watched him in college, and I was like, he's a big, strong kid, but I just didn't see an NFL star. In fact, I remember saying I thought he had some Tebow qualities where he was going to be a better college guy than a pro guy.
I listened to you say that.
Yeah, Nate, and then all of a sudden, about 7 games in, I'm like, okay, I'm way wrong. He's a franchise quarterback. When did you say, oh, boy, okay, we're going to build around him? When did it happen to you?
It happened about the 3rd or 4th game, It clicked for me. I'm watching this kid. He seemed to never get rattled. I watched him from day one. I talked to our head of pro personnel, Will McClay, and I said, man, do we need to go out and get another quarterback? He said, no, Nate. Let's just ride with this kid. After Moore went down, he said, let's just ride with this kid and let's see where he takes us, And man, they went pretty far with him last year, man. But we need Zeke to stay healthy so we don't find out other things about this kid.
Yeah, no, there's no question. The running game has helped him a great deal. Do you worry, Nate, about the schedule? I looked at your schedule this year. 12 of the 16 games I would classify as difficult games, where these are dogfight week after week. Is it possible the Cowboys are going to take a significant step back simply because the schedule is just too tough?
The schedule is tough. I agree 100%. I got them winning 10 games, 9, maybe 10 games. And I don't know if that's enough to win the NFC East. But due to the fact you got to play Atlanta, you got to play Green Bay, you got to see the Giants who feel they got our number. You got to see them twice. Redskins trying to come up, man. And they got a quarterback that's still trying to prove himself. So this is going to be a tough division. But our out-of-conference schedule is off the chain, too. We're on TV almost every week, either Sunday night, Monday night. Hey, Colin, I ain't saying we back. I'm not saying the Cowboys are back, but we're pretty close. But I don't know if we can win more than 10 games.
Jerry Jones is getting heat for taking risks on players. What is your relationship with Jerry? And it seems to me that Jerry's always been very player-friendly. Today, what's your relationship like, and what is Jerry like to play for?
You see, I'm sitting in front of your cameras, man. I started with the Cowboys in '86, and I think Jerry, '83. I started with the Cowboys in '83. Jerry took over in '86, and I'm still dealing with the Cowboys. Jerry take care of his own, man. If you loyal to him, he's loyal to you. And sometimes, like the Lucky Whitehead thing, I guess they had enough, and that's the thing that I hate is when you make Jerry Jones make a move on you. I feel bad, but lucky you with the Jets. Hope you land on your feet, young man.
And finally, Nate Newton, a Super Bowl champ 3 times, former Cowboy offensive lineman. Nate, we've got this young team, and you have Dez. And you've been at camps with Aikman. You've been at camps with Tony Romo. Now it's Dak Prescott. Do they feel different? Does the camp you're in right now, is there a little different vibe to it, or does it feel a little bit like a Tony Romo camp?
No, it's a little different vibes. I think the wide receivers can run routes better, whereas Tony he knew the offense in and out. He knew the little smart things to do as a quarterback, where this guy here is younger. And he throws to the open receiver. So this forces these receivers to run better routes. And so we see that a little bit better. They have an established run game, but the big kicker is how will our defensive secondary, with hardly no rush at this time, survive? I mean, we got Nolan Carr as a veteran. We got Landry Skandrick that's a veteran, but we have young guys, Asamoah. We have Jordan Lewis. We have Marquez, and we wonder, can these guys play? We got a new safety in Jeff Heath. We only have 2 guys back there that's truly veterans and know this system.
Yeah. Nate, good luck to you. Continued success. I love that Herd microphone. That looks so professional. Excellent work today.
Man, I'm loving it, too. With this nice, slick haircut, brother. The Herd is on his way.
Nate Newton, thanks, bud.
Thank you.
John, you're our resident Cowboy homer. His last point's a good one. They don't have much of a pass rush, and they're young in the secondary.
Their best asset on defense is Zeke, because what they've succeeded on is that they just hold the ball longer, and their defense isn't on the field very much. Therefore, you don't score, and then at the end of the game, their defense is fresher. That's their whole trick. If they don't run the ball well, their defense is going to suffer.
Look at the Cowboys schedule. We put it up earlier this week, and our guys in the back will grab it. It is absolutely ridiculous. Remember, Zeke may get suspended. They start with New York that beat him twice last year, then at Denver, at Arizona, and then they play the Rams at home. But, in my opinion, the Rams, because of their defensive personnel, that's a dogfight. Then it's Green Bay, back on the road twice. They get Kansas City at home, which will vie for their division. Then it's at Atlanta. Then it's Philadelphia, L.A., and Washington, this being the Chargers, who, by the way, are picked to be a wild card team if you look at Vegas and the over-unders. And then you go into you got to go back to the New York Giants. You got to go cross-country to Oakland. Then you get Seattle at home, favored to win their division. Then you're at Philadelphia. I don't remember, honestly, the last time I looked at a schedule. I think that schedule would eat up about 80% of this league. It wouldn't eat up the Patriots. I don't think it'll eat up the Cowboys. I don't think it would eat up Seattle. I don't think it would eat up Oakland. That is a brutal, brutal schedule. And, God, they're West Coast, then up east, then back west. God, that's brutal. They're out of conference games at Denver, at Arizona, Kansas City, at Oakland, Seattle, the Chargers, at Atlanta. God, that is rough. Chris Mannix will join us top of the hour on the Kyrie Irving situation. I said it at the top of the show, and I really believe it, is that Adrian Wojnarowski is out with a story today, and the story being that there's about 6-7 teams that are interested, very strongly interested in Kyrie Irving. My belief here is if you are Cleveland and you know you're going to lose Kyrie Irving, the only way to secure LeBron, and you have to think about this, he's the best player you'll ever have in your franchise. You have to, at some level, consider how will the trade fall on LeBron? How does it land for LeBron? I think Minnesota's your only trade partner. And I think you go after Andrew Wiggins. And initially, LeBron didn't want Andrew Wiggins because LeBron doesn't want to play with kids. Andrew Wiggins now is a 3-time NBAer. He's an all-star. He's 23 a game. He is long and athletic. And I think you could sell it to LeBron. If Kyrie, and Minnesota is interested in Kyrie, it may have to be a 3-teamer, so somebody gets Jeff Teague. That Kyrie is gone, but we have Derrick Rose, who's probably about 15 a game for you, and Andrew Wiggins. And I think that lands on LeBron like, okay, I have a premier all-star young player next to me, and Kevin Love and Tristan. I think you can keep LeBron past next year with that. Because I think Andrew Wiggins would emerge with LeBron to be a 26-point-a-game guy. And it would give this team youth, which they desperately need. You never win a trade in the NBA. If you lose a star, go look at the track. You can get 9 B players. It never works. I think for 3 reasons. 1, to win the trade, you need a star. 2, you have to appease LeBron. I think Wiggins would now as an all-star in the league. And 3, if LeBron leaves, you have Wiggins. You're okay. You've got your young star. But I'm hearing these. Adrian Wojnarowski's a great reporter. They're talking about Phoenix. Phoenix they have Devin Booker. Phoenix is not giving up Devin Booker. Who wants Eric Bledsoe? LeBron leaves? That's your star? And secondly, Boston. What does Boston have? What does Boston have that would make LeBron happy? Listen, I don't care if you like LeBron or not. When you make this deal with Kyrie, LeBron better have a good vibe or he's done. He's not done right now. LeBron didn't make up his decision to leave Cleveland the first time until the last day. He has not made his mind up. Just say it out loud. Derrick Rose, LeBron, Kevin Love, Andrew Wiggins, Tristan Thompson. I think that's better than last year's team. I really do. I think it's better than last year's team. If you look productivity, 22 from Wiggins, 17 from Rose, it's absolutely better.
Oh, Rose makes the team better?
With Andrew Wiggins. But I'm reading this story and I'm hearing Boston and Phoenix, and Woj is great, but what in the world could you do with Boston that would appease LeBron? And I don't care if you like LeBron. You better not do this without saying, LeBron, how does this fall for you? Wiggins.
I think LeBron would go thumbs up, let's get him. And if he does leave, you got Wiggins. You don't want to be left with Isaiah Thomas, Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe's hurt all the time. It's the Herd. By the way, Celtic fans, I just went to Twitter, and a Celtic fan's like, we could give you a lot for Kyrie. We could give you Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford and Terry Rozier.
Valid point by that guy on Twitter.
Yuck.
Oh,
Al Horford's a lousier. Al Horford's contract is atrocious. It's $20-some million, and I have Al Horford. It's called Kevin Love. He's better. And I don't want Terry Rozier.
He's just making the point that the Celtics have a lot of assets.
Assets
that you've already made a huge argument that they should be willing to give up to get a star. So here you go.
If you did a 3-team deal and you could give me the number 1 pick next year, Jason Tatum, and then a starter from another team in a trade, I consider it. There's nothing the Celtics have. Why do I want Gordon Hayward? He plays a 3. That's LeBron. I don't need Gordon. And you're not going to give up Gordon Hayward. You just acquired him. That's what Woj is saying. Boston's the leader in the clubhouse. What does Boston have that Cleveland wants? No, if you're a Celtic fan, 877-757-HERD. I don't need Al Horford. I have Kevin Love, and his contract's horrible. Jason Tatum's fine, but what am I getting with Jason Tatum? I'd take Jason Tatum, but that's not good enough. Al Horford and Jason Tatum, I'm not a better team. The only trade you can make for Kyrie Irving, go find a team with multiple stars who is interested in Kyrie. There's one, Minnesota. Kyrie, Karl Anthony Towns are close. I've been told they're close. And then Jimmy Butler. That's a really good basketball team. You're not going to get Kyrie and not give up one of your stars. So what you'd say is, I got my point guard Kyrie, I got my center Karl Anthony Towns, and I've got my wing Jimmy Butler. That with a little filling in the gaps is a potential Western Conference team. There's no question. Andrew Wiggins to me is the player that appeases LeBron, potentially makes you better, makes you younger, makes you longer. You know, Andrew Wiggins can go out and guard Klay Thompson. I don't know, is Wiggins about 6'6"? I've seen him play. Wiggins is about, he averaged 24 last year. Is Wiggins 6'8"? I can put him on Durant. Remember, LeBron last year in the finals said, we don't have an answer for Durant. There's your answer. There's your answer for Kevin Durant, Andrew Wiggins. And then LeBron, I'm telling you, Wiggins, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, I'd make, and I think Minnesota would be willing to do it because we wouldn't have to face you in the West. But what does Boston have? You cannot trade away Kyrie Irving and not get a star. That's not the way the NBA works, man. You have got to get a star in return. Let's go to Jay in Syracuse. All right, Jay, fire away. Go ahead, buddy.
All right. Basically, Wiggins is one of the worst defensive players in the league. 538, the analytics website.
He's 24 a game. He's 6'8". He shoots 46%, and he gets 4 rebounds a game. You tell me what you're going to get that's better. Eric Bledsoe's never healthy. You got to get a young wing, or LeBron's going to be ticked off.
No, but this is the thing. Wiggins is a worse defender.
Dude, the NBA, you win titles. You win titles with offense in this league. Most of these, does Steph Curry play defense? Does Kyrie Irving play defense? LeBron doesn't play great defense as much. Kawhi Leonard does. But you can't be paralyzed by Wiggins. He's a 24-point-a-game guy, and that was with a bad point guard. If you gave him a LeBron to get him the basketball, he's a 26-point-a-game guy, shooting 46%. And he's an okay three-point shooter. He's not great. Gives you a few rebounds. Terrific athlete. I didn't know he was 6'8". He looks more 6'6", 6'7" to me. 6'8". He can jump out of the gym. But if you think you're going to trade Kyrie and give me Boston's Al Horford and Isaiah Thomas, you might as well just sign papers for LeBron to go to Los Angeles. You sign a deal with – you really think he's going to be happy with Eric Bledsoe and Derrick Rose? That's a worse team.
So are we admitting that this is all about pleasing LeBron? Or is this more about planning for the future?
Well, Wiggins does both. It appeases him, and if LeBron leaves, you have a star.
It does not appease him. He wanted him traded.
3 years ago. There's a lot of guys you didn't like in high school, then you date them in college. Things change.
Really?
That happens all the time. How many of you women out there listening thought your current husband was a jerk the first time you met him?
Let's take calls on that.
Most time changes everything. Situations change everything. You meet people, it doesn't work. 3 years later, you're exchanging vows. You didn't think Aaron was a little arrogant the first time you met him? That's funny. What kind of look is that? It's funny. Thought he was a little arrogant. Didn't want to play with him at first. That's a weird way to say it.
Yeah, didn't want to.
Now you're willing to trade for him. You know what I'm saying. I mean, I seriously, I got to take one more call here. Do I have time? I don't know if I have time. Nah, I don't. I'm seeing all these. I trust Adrian Wojnarowski, but everybody's telling me Phoenix.
I trust him too.
I do. I love him. I just talked to him for a half hour about 2 weeks ago. Listen, what is Boston going to do that LeBron's like, okay, I'll stay?
Clearly something.
Al Horford, number 1 picks. He's out of there.
Maybe they can do a 3-team trade. Never know.
All right. Chris Mannix is around the corner on this stuff. He's great. RJ Bell's in studio today. He's in L.A. Cool. It's The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio. I think we're on Fox Sports Go this last hour. Is that what it is?
Could be. We don't know.
We're on number 2 right now? We're on FS2.
FS2.
All right.
We're somewhere.
Chris Mannix.
We are on iHeartRadio, right? And Sirius?
We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Sirius XM. All of our audio, Facebook, and all that stuff's the same. I think we got knocked off for a tractor, NASCAR tractor pull or something. What did we get knocked off for today? Truck racing?
Wait, we're bumped for truck racing?
It's not my decision. These are contracts that I inherited.
Like, what kind of trucks? Like the long trucks?
The ones with Hemi
like
engines.
Like a pickup truck.
Like V8 Hemis. Flatbeds.
Flatbed racing?
Yeah, they're just.
That actually would be entertaining.
The flatbeds going down the road like 100 miles an hour. I don't know. I don't know much about truck racing. But like when I came here, like our soccer contracts, those are wrapping up. But we have some NASCAR Fridays. So listen, it's a dead time. We had a great Monday through Thursday, and today I'm just so we had Cam, we had Nate Newton on and Gary Myers, RJ Bell, Chris Mannix is a couple minutes away. I am fascinated though. When I used to do local radio in Portland, I used to this used to be a running joke on the show, is that when you live or work in an NBA city. I think Goulet, I've joked about this before. You can take calls all day on possible trades. And fans are absurd. Like 10 years ago in Portland, I'd get calls like, okay, the Blazers get Kobe Bryant, and we'll give the Lakers a conditional pick and an end table. I'll take your answer off the air. I don't want to answer that. Fans always elevate their players. Remember with this, Kyrie Irving's a star, top 10, 12 player in the league. You have to make a trade that will land well with LeBron, A, that LeBron thinks we got better, and B, that if LeBron leaves, you have a star. That's not Eric Bledsoe. You can't trade Eric Bledsoe. Okay, Eric Bledsoe and Derrick Rose, if LeBron leaves and Kyrie leaves, you're awful. You've got old guys who can't defend and chronically hurt players. That's why Wiggins, to me, and I'll ask Chris Mannix about this, there's one team in this league that wants Kyrie and has multiple stars. It's Minnesota. That's your trade partner. But if you start, but it's funny. So Brian's in New Jersey. So you think the Suns have the best package. I'm going to pretend I'm LeBron James, and you're the Phoenix Suns. What are you willing to give me, Brian, in New Jersey?
I'll give you Eric Bledsoe, Marquise Chris, Dragan Bender, T.J. Warren, and a pick from Miami, 2018 Miami pick.
Doesn't make us beat the Warriors. We're worse than we were the year before. I'm out of here. I'm going to the Lakers. You're giving me a bunch of used parts. You're giving me a bunch of Bs. You got to give me an A.
I'm giving you two lottery picks from 2016.
Lottery picks?
I'm giving you...
I mean, they're not stars.
They're both fantastic.
If LeBron, you have to make me happy. I'll give you an example. Let's say these were cars, and I have a Maserati. Kyrie Irving's a Maserati. You just offered me 9 Kias. Where's my Maserati?
This is the best. This is the best that Cleveland's going to be able to do. I'm telling you.
Andrew Wiggins is a star.
Andrew Wiggins can't shoot threes. You need to be able to shoot threes against the Warriors.
He's a 24 point a game, 22-year-old. You don't think he can go from 36% on threes to 39%, which would make him an elite shooter? He's a 36% three-point shooter. He's 22.
He shoots very few of them, though.
Well, I'm saying, can he be a 38%? He's a 6'8", 44-inch vertical player. John, what's your thoughts?
If those guys are so good, why did the Suns have the worst record in the West?
Yeah, Hey, we got all these cars in our parking lot. Nobody wants to buy any, but they're great cars. You want them? No, I want my Maserati. I'm giving you a Maserati. You're giving me a Honda Civic. You got to do better. You got a Wiggins is an elite. He's a Lexus. He may not be but it's a Lexus. You're giving me a real car, okay? You can't roll something into me like a conditional lottery pick. I'm not going to make LeBron happy. You got to give me something. Let's go to Chris Mannix. All right, I've been saying this all day, Chris, is that in the history of the NBA, we have a precedent. Chris Mannix writes for The Vertical. He does Boston, and he's a huge talent. I've asked my bosses 9 times to hire him, so here we go, Chris. So let's start with this, Chris. The NBA, if you lose a star and you don't get a star back, you generally lose the trade. My proposition is Andrew Wiggins. Minnesota wants Kyrie. Andrew Wiggins is a star, and I think it would appease LeBron if you said, okay, Derrick Rose, Wiggins, Kyrie's out. We match up better. We'll start with that, Chris. The Wiggins idea. Your thoughts?
I like the idea, and it certainly fills a couple of boxes for Cleveland. First, it gives you a guy that can help you win right away. He's a scorer that I think under LeBron would only get better.
Yeah.
I think he can become a better defensive player because of his athleticism, though he hasn't shown it up until this point. But I think a bold move can be made here, Colin, with Minnesota. If I'm Cleveland, I would also want Jeff Teague in this. I mean, look, I lived in New York last year. I saw Derrick Rose. He's not good. I mean, he is a below-average shooter. He is a below-average defender. How he fits in as a pick-and-roll player alongside LeBron James, I just don't know. You still need a starting-caliber point guard. And to me, Jeff Teague is still a starting-caliber point guard. He's a guy that shot in the high 30s from 3 last year. He's an 8-assist-per-game player. The issue is that he can't be traded until December 15th.
That's right.
He was an off-season signee. You can't trade him. It would be a bold move for the Cavaliers to bring Kyrie Irving back, to basically tell him to shut up, and then wait till the 15th and make that Wiggins deal involving Jeff Teague. Because I just think it can't just be Wiggins-centric. It can't just be about Andrew Wiggins. You've got to get more than that. And if you added Jeff Teague to that mix, that would make you better than you would be now with Wiggins,
yes,
and protect you even further in the future.
Yeah, listen, if you told me Jeff Teague, LeBron James, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, I think that's better than last year's Cavs. I really do. I think it's a more explosive team. By the way, Wiggins is 6'7", 6'8". He could defend Durant. I mean, nobody defends him, but he can be a little bit of an obstacle. Now, I trust The Vertical implicitly. I love Woj. You know that. But I keep hearing Boston's in the driver's seat. Chris, why would I want picks? Why would I want Isaiah Thomas? I don't get that argument.
Well, it depends on what your mindset is if you're Cleveland. If you're Cleveland, and look, that was the most bland, non-committal press conference I've heard an executive and an owner give. You really got no indication from them which way they want to go. And frankly, that's kind of smart. I mean, right now, Cleveland's radioactive. I mean, you don't want to make a deal in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks anyway. You have got to make teams believe that you're willing to bring Kyrie Irving into training camp. You can't operate from a position of desperation. That's only going to get you a mediocre offer from teams out there. So that's first. And with Boston, look, if they want to go in a direction where they think that LeBron's going to leave, and Boston puts a Tatum and other players like Jaylen Brown and picks like the ones they have next year on the table, you and I may not agree with it. You and I may say that they're detonating their chances of retaining LeBron long term, but they know what at least they think they know what their chances are of retaining LeBron. If they think it's likely he leaves no matter what, then getting a Boston package back in return is paramount. But I'll tell you this, Colin, maybe the most underreported story of this offseason is Isaiah Thomas' hip injury. Danny Ainge just came out yesterday and said Isaiah Thomas doesn't need hip surgery. The fact that we're in late July and we're still wondering if Isaiah Thomas who was hurt in late May, might need hip surgery is astonishing. And if I was a team looking to make a blockbuster deal with Boston that would include Isaiah Thomas, I wouldn't go near him with a 10-foot pole until he shows for at least a month into the regular season that he's past that hip injury. Outside of the foot, the hip injury is the most significant NBA injury that you could have. It detonated the career of Johnny Flynn. LaMarcus Aldridge had it a couple of years back. Kevin Looney had it last year with the Warriors. This is a 4 to 6 month injury if it requires surgery, and who knows how a small player bounces back for it. So we can discuss Boston all we want, but if Isaiah Thomas, if he's part of this, of any kind of conversation, you'd be nuts if you're Cleveland to touch him with this hip injury looming.
Chris Mannix, The Vertical. There's a spoiled child sometimes with Kyrie. 1-year guy, played at Duke, not answering calls now. He said he's going to retire early. How is this landing? My mom used to always say, sometimes you're better seen than heard. How is this landing with execs? Are there execs that are like, we're not sure Kyrie's all in for 4 or 5 years?
No, I'll be honest, and I've talked to at least 2 executives that have checked in with Cleveland that are eager to take on Kyrie Irving, and they don't have any such fear with him. I mean, look, Cleveland is and has been for Kyrie, and you've heard this before, such a combustible situation over the last 6 years. Since his draft and LeBron coming in, it's just been kind of organized chaos over there for a while, and teams really believe that if you get Kyrie into a situation where he's happy to be there and he wants to be there and he's choosing to be there, that all this other stuff would go away. I do think that it's a mortal lock that in 3 or 4 years, if Kyrie's traded before the start of the season, somebody's going to write a story or he's going to do an interview where he talks about how he regrets how things ended in Cleveland. If he winds up in Phoenix and he's playing on a 25-win team for 2 or 3 years, guys don't appreciate success until it's gone. Yep. And Kyrie's had a lot of success, and just like Stephon Marbury in Minnesota, just like Shaq and Kobe, we'll be reading about Kyrie Irving regretting doing what he's doing right now.
I remember when LeBron was deciding about Cleveland and he left and went to Miami. And I remember talking to Stephen A. Smith, and he had a good contacts with Maverick Carter and those guys. And they didn't know. Maverick didn't know 2 or 3 days before. And then when LeBron went back home, Lee Jenkins had it, but it caught a lot of people off guard, right, Chris?
Yeah.
It feels like, though, this time that LeBron has moved twice. Chris, maybe I'm reaching here, but it kind of feels like LeBron's a year out and he's got at least he's ahead of where he was in his last 2 moves. That's how it feels to me. Do you think he's looking at a L.A. or a Houston already right now?
Oh, absolutely. And everybody across the league thinks he's doing that right now as well. This is not a player that acts impulsively. Everything he does and has done over the last 7-8 years has been calculated. From the move to Miami to the move back to Cleveland, none of these decisions were settled upon when his final regular season game was over. So he's looking out there, and I'll be honest, I'm fascinated by what Houston's trying to do here. I don't believe that Daryl Morey thinks that Carmelo Anthony is going to move him closer to Golden State and winning a championship. In fact, I think Houston's probably terrified of a Carmelo and Mike D'Antoni reunion, and how that might blow up again like it did in New York. But what you need to realize about that team is that all of a sudden you add Carmelo to that mix, and you have 2 of LeBron's closest friends in the league playing for them. You have James Harden, a former USA basketball teammate who LeBron has enormous respect for. That would be a season next year, which they'd be trying to win, but at the same time, those guys would be texting LeBron. They'd be communicating with LeBron. They would be letting it known to him that he could step in there, be the small forward alongside Carmelo in a 4 position, and that he'd fit in perfectly. That, to me, is the most intriguing team. The Lakers are what they are. They're kind of unpredictable right now. They're probably not going to be very good. But Houston, if they got to the conference finals with a Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, James Harden team, in my mind, they would immediately become the front runner to land LeBron James.
The Vertical, Chris Mannix. So nice he had to come on a Friday, man. I swear to God. What's the date today, Christine?
The 28th. Why do you look at me like I'm the calendar?
Well, the season ended June, like the finals ended June, 12th or something? 15th?
Yeah, around there.
I'm still talking NBA. I'm fascinated. Chris, tremendous work. Thanks, man. Have a great weekend.
Anytime, Colin.
You bet. That Houston thing's interesting, man. That is interesting. If you're looking to sell your car, better way to do it, TrueCar. Fast, easy. Go to TrueCar.com/trade today. What do you drive?
First you tell us what you drive before you make me sound bougie.
I'm not. I have some car sponsors. I'd rather not discuss my transportation.
Yeah. Actually, I do too, so I shouldn't either. But you have multiple cars.
I don't have multiple cars.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't have one car.
How many does Ann have?
One car. We don't have.
Only have two cars in
I've
your garage?
never once in my life have two cars, ever.
Okay.
I'm not a multiple car guy.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not.
I don't know why I thought you had more than one.
No, I have. How many do you have?
Just one.
All right. Is it racy and?
No, I'm not. Do you think I'm a racy? Well,
do you
think that I race down the street?
No,
in
but
my
I think
car?
you'd have something that's like appealing.
That's a good thing.
Is it convertible occasionally?
No,
it's not.
No, convertibles are unsafe.
Yeah.
Like if you flip, you're gonna die.
You feel like an Oldsmobile girl to me.
No, I remember though the first time I went car shopping with my dad when I was 16, he tried to get me to try an Oldsmobile, and it was like a boat. Very safe.
Yeah, they're
but
big.
Way too big. But my dad's huge, so makes sense why he liked it.
You know, my dad only owned 3 cars in his lifetime.
It's impressive.
He was a very frugal man. He owned an International Harvester, a Jeep forever, and then he had a Buick Riviera. That was in his, what do you call it when guys hit like 45 years old?
Midlife crisis?
Midlife crisis. He had a sport, and that Buick Riviera was kind of sporty. And then in the end, he had a GMC truck that he drove that thing forever.
Reliable.
My dad was very much into that stuff. That's
my car is like halfway reliable. It's reliable. It's like gas friendly.
Yeah.
It shuts off.
My car likes
stops.
the planet. It's very pro-planet.
But it also is pretty.
My car?
My car is pretty.
Oh, my car's gray. What color is your car? This is really interesting for the audience.
My car is white.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. All right, here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Should we continue talking about our cars for the whole news segment? Okay. Aaron Judge.
Oh, he's good.
Yeah. So he was celebrating Brett Gardner's game-winning home run in the 11th inning last night against the Tampa Bay Rays. And during the celebration, you can actually see, we have a spotlight on it, that he loses his tooth. You can see it flying out of his mouth. Watch. There it goes. Bite tooth.
His tooth got knocked out?
His tooth got knocked out from a celebration. Now, you know I am all about celebration. Do it all you want. Dance and twerk all you want. But if you're twerking and you pull your hamstring, you've taken it too far.
Oh, look at that.
Honestly,
oh my
this
God.
is taking it too far. You can't be losing a tooth while you celebrate.
Look at, he got his helmet right in the mouth.
Right. And I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but I don't understand the whole jumping up and down on each other.
That's a guy
kind of
thing. That's what guys do.
But have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah, guys did.
Why do you do that?
That's just how.
There's nothing about jumping up and down and
I do it all
hugging
the time.
each other.
That's what guys do when we celebrate. We jump up and down.
While hugging?
Yeah.
That's just, and with helmets on, I'm surprised this is the first time we're talking about a tooth being broken.
2 segments ago, after we got Mannix on, we jumped around in between segments.
It's just weird to me.
I know.
I understand, dancing, whatever, but, the hug and jump, I don't like it. Another baseball story for you, actually.
Okay.
So, Bryce Harper, your guy.
Yeah.
He struck out last night, and he was so angry. There he goes, striking out. Slams his bat.
Ooh.
There he goes, slams the bat, starts screaming.
Love it.
Got ejected.
Love this.
And now he is blaming this meltdown. This is an epic meltdown on his pregame playlist.
Well, I want to hear this.
Specifically, he says that it is Chance the Rapper and Logic's fault because they got him too hyped up before the game. And he needs to start listening to stuff like The Temptations and jazz.
I love Bryce Harper so much.
Really?
It's my favorite baseball player.
Don't blame Chance the Rapper on your meltdown.
Look at that. Boy, I'll tell you something, man. He does not cheat himself.
Do you have to listen to specific music to get yourself ready for the show? That doesn't strike me as something you do.
Now, a lot of times before, Taylor Swift.
Oh, gosh.
A lot of times when I'm going to work out.
You play this in your dressing room, don't
like
you?
when I'm going to go pump some iron, I do a lot of Taylor Swift. Yeah.
I could see you actually dancing.
And then I jump up and down, knock my tooth out.
And finally, remember the suit that Conor McGregor wore at one of the press conferences? It looked like pinstripes, but if you looked closely, it was FU.
Yeah, it was
up and
vulgar.
Down. Yes. So now, just in case, I know you were maybe thinking about this, you wanted to buy it. It is on sale from the designer, David August. He's making it available for a limited time for the very nice cost of $6,500.
Oh, for a suit?
People do pay that much.
$6,500.
But that's not something that you can wear all the time. That's like a one-time suit. You don't wear that to like multiple weddings. You just wear it if you're going maybe to the fight.
I
and you know some guy's going to buy this.
It's amazing what people spend on clothes.
You just have to have so much money that it doesn't matter.
I bet you I spend less than $800 on clothes a year.
That's not true. That's not true.
I think it's close to true.
No, it's not true.
That shirt you're wearing today, which is very hip, how much did that cost?
I don't know. I didn't buy it.
That is very nice.
This is not a home shirt.
It's a very expensive looking shirt.
I highly doubt it.
It's actually cool because you could wear that out and be cool, but it looks cool on the air.
Oh.
I say that as my respect for you as a journalist.
Well, I have it in black also, so.
Yeah, that's very hip looking.
Thank you.
It looks expensive.
It depends what you think is expensive.
Anything over like $50 to me is outrageous.
Even Lucky is more expensive.
Goulet, how much you spend for that flannel shirt you're wearing?
This is probably like a $19.99
type
deal.
You're lying.
You're
all lying. How much was your shirt, Greg? I know Greg's honest.
This is a Nordstrom shirt. I think it was probably $60.
Really?
$70 probably.
Did you get it on sale?
I think it was on sale, yeah.
Yeah, Nordstrom shirts are more than $60, typically. You're just a deal hunter, Greg.
All right, Christine.
Yes, I am.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line
Well,
News.
he's my Saturday morning podcast during the football season. I'll do my Blazing Five, and then I'll bring R.J. Bell on my podcast, and I'll say, all right, what do the wise guys think? He is in studio. I don't think I've ever had you either place, R.J. Bell, pregame.com, the official odds maker, line maker for the Associated Press. Okay. And by the way, plays himself in this week's episode of Ballers on HBO in a casino scene with The Rock. Do we have any tape of that? Now, how long did that take? Did The Rock call you?
No. Maybe. Well, no.
He didn't.
But it was two scenes, about a minute each. Took 13 hours to tape. 40 takes each.
40.
I tell you, TV now, HBO, Ballers, it's like a movie production.
It is.
Right? Back in the day, it was 3 cameras, go. 6 hours a clip for a minute.
Oh, my God. It's funny. Christine and I just did a photo shoot for a billboard, and I couldn't believe how quick it went. It was an hour for 2 pictures. And my takeaway was...
Well, beautiful girl. It's easy,
Yeah, it's easy, right?
But I think it's more that Colin doesn't like taking photos, so they kept it moving pretty fast.
So let's talk about the fight, because I think this is a classic example, Mayweather and McGregor. This is the schmoes against the sharks. So if I said to you, what's the public betting?
Yeah, I would say the way people say it, pros versus Joes.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a disparity.
In anything you've done?
Anything, ever. So the pros, 90+% Mayweather.
Now, these are guys, these are like builders. They've got $2 million bankroll. They can bet $400,000 to win 58.
One of the big differentiators, Colin, between professionals and non-professionals, are you willing to bet a lot to win a little?
Pros will.
Super Bowl is a great example. They will bet every extra point's going to be made. And, usually they have to bet a lot to win a little. They will bet there will be no safety. Now, they've been killed on that one recently. But they're not afraid to bet a lot to win a little. The Joes, Recreational bettors love to bet a little to win a lot.
$20 and come away with $1,000.
Exactly.
So they're
well, that's extreme, but even 20 to come away with 100.
Now, what were the opening? Okay, so let's go back to the very beginning. RJ Bell, pregame.com. So the fight's announced. What are the odds on the fight?
They actually had odds before the fight was announced. So they were speculating if this fight happens back in November, $25 you had to risk to win $1
okay, now,
on Mayweather.
RJ, I believe that's a steal for Mayweather. Like if I was a professional bettor and had a bankroll and I could bet $50,000 to win $2,000, that doesn't. I'd probably bet $100,000 to win $4,000.
That was pretty good, right in your head, right there.
So it went 25. Now, at what point do the casinos and the sportsbook go, oh, wait a minute, everybody's betting McGregor? It shrinks now to what? What is it, 5-1?
Right now it's in. Now here's the difference, and we've been talking with the producers the last couple of weeks because you guys will say, oh, we see 5-1 at the Square Sportsbook. So different sportsbooks have different clientele.
Okay.
Some will take professional action. Some will do anything to avoid professional action.
What do pros bet? Like a Caesars or something?
No, in Vegas, CG Technology is one. It used to be Cantors that will take a lot of big bets. Really, Vegas, I'll be honest with you, it's the center of the sports betting universe, but the biggest bettors, they bet a vast majority of their bets offshore.
Okay.
Because there's places offshore, take $100,000 on an NFL game, not even blink.
So Vegas is where regular guys.
More recreational bettors. There's a lot of pros that live in town, but they don't like to talk about it. They've got their computer accounts offshore in addition to in town.
Okay. So the regular guys are just throwing, and what do you know on that? Like, is the average guy throwing $70 on it?
Here's the average bet, and this was from an online book years ago. This will shock you. The median bet, there's a difference between mean and median, right? Median means half the bets are bigger, half the bets are smaller. $22. Not just on this boxing match. Any sporting event, half the people are betting less than $22. So it's very recreational.
Sure.
Which is a great segue to the idea of the leagues, how they're, being open to it now. So I think the fact of the idea of betting thousands of dollars and losing their mortgage, yeah, that happens. Just like there's people that smoke too many cigarettes, whatever.
But that narrative is mostly mythology.
I think it's a small percentage of bettors.
Okay, so right now, Joe, driving a truck down the street is on McGregor betting $22, and the big guys, the sharps, they're on Mayweather.
They're not on Mayweather yet, and this is the best piece of actionable advice I can give the listeners, give you. If you like McGregor, I think you're wrong. Colin, you think they're wrong. Bet now. Because this is probably, and you can, if you shop around, you can get right around plus 450.
So bet McGregor today.
If you want to bet McGregor, I would advise against it. But if you like Mayweather, you could lay 660 now. 660 wins you 100. Or my guess is you're going to lay less than 500 come fight day because all that recreational money is bringing that line down, down, down.
Now, in fight history, RJ Bell, pregame.com, do all sports work the same? When you get closer to fights, I would think the stadium is full of regular people.
Exactly.
They go to a sports book. So what you're saying is the fight draws closer. Fight night, it's going to be a lot of mass regular people money.
Exactly. But usually the Friday fight's usually Saturday night. Friday before, you're getting all that $20, $50 batters. And then at some point on Saturday, you'll see the line tick up. So let's say it's down to 480, right? Mayweather minus 480. That's lower than it is now. When it ticks to 490, the other wise guys are going to say, uh-oh, it's turned around, feeding frenzy, and that baby might get up to 560 within the hour. So not to be too nuanced here, is McGregor bet now, Mayweather look for the day of the fight, but probably not the night of the fight.
So we want to go to the NFL. I have always really enjoyed over-under bets. And I think it's a lot of fun. And I understand the two things I've always enjoyed betting are college bowl games. And I think I've told you this years and years ago, because if there's like 25, 35 bowl games, about 8 of the teams in a bowl game they're firing their staff.
Motivational issues.
Yeah, I mean, Boise State loves to play a Pac-12 team. The Pac-12 team is never motivated to play Boise State. I almost always bet Boise State in a bowl game. Over-under on the Rams, I thought was the one miss. They had without question, the worst, least experienced offensive staff in the league last year. They've gone heavy offensive staff, upgrade left tackle, upgrade wide receivers. They were a 4-win team last year and virtually incompetent offensively. I think they're a 6, 7, 8-win team. Vegas doesn't think I'm right.
Well, Vegas has them in that 5.5 range. So if they win 6 or 7, they would certainly go over the total. But let me ask you this question, and we've been doing this 6, 7 years now, and you preach it. Quarterback is king. The most valuable quarterback in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, he's worth about 10 points per game versus his backup. The very best non-quarterback in the NFL is worth maybe 1.5 points. So think about that, 10 versus 1.5.
And that's like, who is that?
Last year there was speculation it was A.J. Green just because there wasn't any other really good skill players for the Bengals, and thus if he's gone, there's big trouble. But, usually it debates back and forth. Des Bryant's in a point range. He, like you said, wide receivers aren't particularly valuable, but he is a elite receiver. Adrian Peterson a couple years ago used to be the guy.
Yeah.
But even in his heyday,
1.5, wasn't it?
1.5, maybe 2 at his very best. Gronk, maybe a point. So, okay. Who's going to have the worst quarterback in the league this year? If you had to make a bet, worst quarterback in the league, who's it going to be?
I hate when you're common sense baloney.
I think
San Francisco.
Maybe, but I think let's just say this. Goff is in the conversation.
Yeah, it probably is. God, I hate your arguments. So that would be dumb money.
I'm not sure about – here's the thing.
I only bet 100.
Let me give some broad advice. If you bet under the highest number, so if you look at the very best teams and bet under, blind, and you bet over – the lowest numbers, you're probably going to do better than 50% because people it's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems in life. And that's the same with teams. By the way, the Patriots over under win total 12.5, highest win total any team has had in 8 seasons.
Yeah. And John, I would say 13 with the Patriots because I honestly think the Jets are tanking. So that the Jets have always been they've been a difficult matchup at times for New England. Those are 2 wins.
And the Jets are one of 3 teams that are tied for 4.5 wins at the bottom of the league. And the motivational issue is one a lot of bettors are talking about. I disagree with it. How many times, Colin, have we seen teams, if they win the game, they lose the first pick? It's week 17. It's the last game of the season. And if a team wins, they lose the number 1 pick, and they'll win the game. Like NFL, there's only 16 games. I've never seen an NFL team, quote-unquote, tank. I've seen them make decisions
late in the year.
Well, I was going to say the opposite. I've seen them make decisions that play for the future. I think the Browns have done a lot of good things. If the Browns can stay the course, and that's the question, right? It might be a 5-year horizon. Getting so young like they did last year is going to help them. Now, were they tanking, or were they sacrificing the now for the future? I think that teams will do that. But I think these NFL players play 100% every game. If not, you can get hurt. I mean, if you talk to many more NFL guys than I do, they tell you when you let up a little bit is when you get hurt.
So the Cowboys over-under is 9.5, which I think is the exact spot. Is there an over-under? I liked Rams over, and I like Carolina's over. Is there a team you're seeing in Vegas now, over-under, either side? And this is the way it works with the sharp guys. The day it comes out, they jump on it and change it a game. Was there somebody that Vegas wise guys liked?
You make a great point. You were talking about college bowls. Those lines come out December 10th or so. Usually by 3 or 4 days, the bad lines have been moved 3 or 4 points.
Early.
And that's great advice in general. If you're betting football and you can play early in the week, it's so much easier.
Yes.
If you picked your Blazing 5, now, wouldn't make sense for radio and TV.
That's why we do it on Friday.
If you picked it on Monday,
I'd have better
you would
lines.
add 3 percentage points probably. If you won 55%, you would win 58 if you bet Monday. Yeah. And most listeners, if they play, they can play early if they want to.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say. I don't know about the sharps as much having a strong opinion. You always hear 3 sharps will tell you, I like this team, and then 2 sharps will like the under on it. But I want to talk about the Giants because a lot of people are interested in the Giants. This is a team that if you look at the power ratings, you might say, they're better than this number. And if you look at the Giants number right now, it's 8.5. So you might say, wow.
They beat the Cowboys twice.
Yeah, 9 seems easy, right? But wise guys, professionals, they look beyond just how good a team is. That's the starting point. Now it's what other factors are going to affect the number of wins. Giants play 4 teams off a bye.
Ooh.
Right? So
that's good information.
This is the thing that the professionals look at is what's not obvious, because most people agree with power ratings, right? Does anyone not think the Pats are the best team in the league? Does anyone not think the Browns are one of the worst teams, and the Rams, and keep go up and down the Jets? But the question is, where are people off a half a game because of circumstances, situations that aren't as obvious? I'll give you another one. Steelers. After October 15th, they don't play an outdoor road game.
Wait, time out. After October 15th.
They got dome road games. Right? So Big Ben, that speculation has been the weather. As he's gotten older, the weather's starting to bother him. Now, if you agree with that, and we saw that with Brett Favre, that happens as you get older.
Boy.
Is that an advantage for Pittsburgh? Now, another wise guy might say, well, if you're in a dome, that means that it's actually a better home field for the home team. So the raw data is the starting point. Then you got to interpret it.
That is a good piece of data. It says they're at Cincinnati in December. Let's look that up again. Did the Brown family just build a dome and I didn't hear about it?
The stat might be there's one road game after October 15th.
Okay, so October 15th is before the halfway point.
Is that correct, John?
Yes, it is.
So one after October 15th.
So their last 10 weeks, one road
outdoor game.
God, that's a good stat.
Yeah. Now, what does it mean? Is it good or bad for the Steelers? That's the question.
You know what? What are their road games? Let me hear that. Let me just hear that.
In that stretch, they'll be at Detroit, at Indy.
You know why I like that? Who's the quickest player in the league, arguably? Antonio Brown on carpet.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell is a shifty runner on carpet.
Yeah, then they're at Cincinnati, the one road game, and then their last road game is at Houston, all indoors. And they just have a lot of home games towards the end of the season.
Boy, that was good stuff.
And it's another, real quick, I know we got to run, Colin, but teams will start good or bad, like 2-3 or 4-1. But if the advantageous situation is early, then those teams tend to be overrated or vice versa. So it really is, as you know, the way the schedule plays out, you can find those underrated or overrated teams after a few games.
All right. Odds provider for the Associated Press, pregame.com, RJ Bell. This was great. Look at that. Look at that look behind you. Look at they put that board up. Doesn't RJ look
Wall
like
Street.
I feel like I'm ready to
Gordon
go to a buffet.
Gekko.
I'm ready to go to a buffet right now after this segment.
Good seeing you, bud.
Thank you.
Hey, it's the Herd. That's interesting. Real Madrid takes on the MLS All-Stars next Wednesday on FS1. Real Madrid would be favored to win that game, right? Like, how would the MLS All-Stars do against our World Cup team? They would lose, clearly.
I think we need RJ back for that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting matchup. Real Madrid against the MLS All-Stars. That's interesting. Instead of an All-Star game, they just do their All-Star game is the MLS All-Stars against Real Madrid. How many of those guys could make the roster? A couple, maybe. Yeah, maybe a couple. That's about it. So that's next Wednesday. That's interesting to see. Where will that game's in Chicago, actually. It's on FS1. I'm going to watch that. So it's good to have you in today. Yeah, it was funny. Like Cam Newton, that Cam Newton story is interesting. Cam basically set out, the coaching staff in Carolina is just trying to help him, and they're saying we want you to be a pocket quarterback. And Cam Newton pushed back yesterday, and he said, like, I'm a lion, and you don't tell a lion not to run. We have the bite here. Here's the bite.
I don't understand certain things. Like, that's my edge. You gonna expect a lion not to roar?
Oh boy.
Like, you got to really ask yourself that. Like, I couldn't imagine, talking to Brady or talking to Aaron or talking to even Matt Ryan or Breeze and say, hey, you going to stay in the pocket all day like that? Like, that's where you feel comfortable at.
Well, that's because we have a history in the NFL. You can't run your way to a Super Bowl at quarterback. To me, when you're as talented as Cam Newton and that big and strong, and your completion percentage is like 54% last year, you're just not putting in the time. Russell Wilson had the worst offensive line in the league last year and is 5'11.5 and completed 64% of his throws. Because Russell Wilson is putting in the time. Russell Wilson should never have the completion percentage of Cam Newton. Cam Newton's 6'6". He has a 6.5-inch height advantage. Can see over the line. He's got a better arm. Cam's got a great arm. Cam may have the best arm in the league. And Cam's completing 57. I've always thought it's just an easier way to quarterback. Be instinctive and run. You can do that in high school and college. Johnny Manziel's another guy. Johnny Manziel came to the NFL and completed like 55% of his throws. Johnny Manziel's just not committed. He's lazy. He didn't want to put the time in. Michael Vick, completion percentage, 58%. Why? Michael Vick acknowledged I wasn't as committed. To complete 62, 63% of your throws, that is a lot of film study. That is a lot of work. Going out and running, Steve Young would occasionally run because Steve Young was a hell of an athlete. Brett Favre is a hell of an athlete. But Brett Favre, to me, you can go look it up. Brett Favre wasn't as committed as Aaron Rodgers is to sitting in a pocket watching film. Aaron Rodgers is a committed film study quarterback. Brett Favre was not. Brett acknowledged he didn't put the time in. He's a good old country boy, loves slinging it around there. Brett never put the time in that Aaron Rodgers puts in. So when I look at Cam Newton and saying, I can't believe you tell the pocket quarterbacks to stay there, well, that's because that's how you quarterback. You can run around in high school and college and win a lot of games. Johnny Manziel ran around a lot in college. In the NFL, you have to commit to 70 hours a week, 60 in the offseason. You got to just sit in that film room. It's hard to be a pocket quarterback. Running is just instinctive. Like some guys they got good feet, they can move. But, I said it the day Russell Wilson came into this league. That guy is a grinder. And that's the thing about NFL quarterback. If you got any diva in you, you're not going to work. Johnny Manziel, diva. Johnny Manziel had way too much diva. Russell Wilson may be married to Ciara, doesn't have a lot of diva. Peter King will join us Monday from Raiders camp. NBA champ Matt Barnes last year with the Warriors, now a free agent, will be joining us too. Gary Myers, Nate Newton was funny, R.J. Bell, Chris Mannix, good stuff on a Friday. Have a good weekend. I went and watched The Big Sick last night at the theaters. Wife cried.
She did?
I did barbell curls, but she cried.
You probably got teary-eyed. A little bit.
You have no speak for yourself today. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. It's The Herd.